Hey everyone, it's Bryony. So sorry I didn't get a video up yesterday onto my channel. I had such a hectic day. I thought I was going to be pretty free, but then it just happened that I had everything to do, so I'm really sorry about that. And I wasn't actually planning to do a video at all today, but I woke up this morning and saw something on my Twitter feed that actually kind of sparked this idea to do this video in my head and reminded me of something I've been meaning to talk about for a while. So in the UK, we've had a pretty rough few months. We've had like a couple of terrorist attacks, and recently we've had a fire in a block of flats in West London. So these particular blocks of flats, they're used by the council to house people. We call them tower blocks over here. And there was a huge fire, loads of people lost their lives and lost their homes. And so as a country and as a community in particular, well, it's not particularly close to where I am, but we have been sending products, donating stuff to the point where they've now said that they don't need any more donations because so many people have come forward to donate stuff, which is fantastic, you know, that we can all pull together. And there's always good in that you find in these bad situations. But that's not actually what I want to talk about here. I wanted to talk about how whenever there's a tragedy like this and they ask for donations, they never, well, sorry, not never, but very, very rarely will actually ever use the word pads or tampons. They always ask for them. They're always needed because, you know, Mother Nature doesn't stop when there's a natural disaster. Sometimes she comes earlier, sometimes she comes later. You know, stress can do all sorts of things to our periods, as we all probably know. But they won't say pads or tampons or even period products. Just, we have women's toiletries or feminine hygiene. And I'm like, what is so bad about putting the word pad or tampon? It is a very descriptive, obviously what they're asking for, you know. Tells you right to the point, we need pads and tampons, you know. And, I don't know why, we just can't say the word. Even at the supermarket, it's not the period aisle, it's the feminine hygiene aisle. Will we all be so scandalised if they put the word period or menstruation up there? You know, heaven forbid we should know that half the population menstruates. It's kind of, it's again this social taboo that we have around it, and it's why I so, like, am keen to break through it with these videos and do whatever I can. And it causes problems like this where because we don't talk about it, because we're too shy to, people will go without and will struggle to deal with their periods when they haven't got period products through whatever causes, rather than say they have a problem. I did a survey recently, and I have been meaning to do the results on this, I promise I will at some point, where I asked girls who have been to a senior state school within the last 5 years to talk about like experiences they have with their period. They just had to tick yes or no, like had they ever started their period unexpectedly or something. And I asked the question, how many of you have ever started your period at school and not had anything to use for it? And instead of going and asking for a pad, well actually sorry, I gave them 3 options. One was yes, I've been too scared to ask someone for a pad. I've used gym socks or toilet roll stuffed in my underwear. The other one was yes, I've asked someone for a pad. And the other one was no, I was too scared to ask somebody for a pad. I've always managed to find one. 50% of the girls I asked, and I had about 2,500 girls fill out this form, they said that they had been too scared to ask someone for a pad or a tampon. They'd actually stuffed toilet roll or gym socks or something else absorbent in their underwear. And this is just in the UK. 50% actually, I think it was higher than 50%. And I remember being shocked at that number. That's the number of girls that are too scared to ask for help because they have this, they've bought into this image of periods being taboo and something that you can't talk about socially, and that like, we just have this image in our head as girls, I think we're all aware of it, that when we have our period and we don't have a pad and we have to ask someone, we think, oh my goodness, if I ask somebody, they're all going to whisper it around, it's going to be like, oh, so-and-so's got their period, did you know about this? And you're going to get this look all the time. Truth is, you know, if we're the one in the situation where we have the pad and someone's asking us, we're like, oh yeah, sure, here you go. Doesn't even bother us because we know it's completely normal. But in their head, they're probably thinking the same as we were when we're like worrying about what people are going to say. Oh, it's it is just a social taboo, and I'm sure it exists in other places, but obviously I live in the UK, so I can only really talk for here. But it did just remind me of like how much of a problem this still is. There is still such a taboo surrounding menstruation, and it was just because I saw a sign at one of these donation points that they're collecting things for the tower victims that I realised when it said women's toiletries that I was like, for heaven's sake, just put pads and tampons. Really, we can work it out. Nobody is going to die of shock or have faint because they see the word pad or tampon or anything related to periods. Why do you put women's toiletries? you know, that could be many things. You might need women's toothbrushes or toothpaste. I know it sounds ridiculous because, you know, obviously they could be unisex, but we have pink toothbrushes and stuff. Toiletries covers a whole range of things. And saying women's doesn't just mean that. Put in the, you know, describe the actual things you need. And it is probably the pads and tampons they're relating to. But anyway, so that was the point. I wanted to kind of rant, I guess. But also to say to you guys, if you don't think about it, it is something to remember. If you do have an incident where there's a tragedy in your local town or somewhere, people lose their homes, just remember that, you know, Mother Nature doesn't stop. And because we don't talk about it, it's not something that immediately jumps into our mind. We also in the UK have like food donation points in a lot of our supermarkets, and I always try and buy a pack of pads to donate because, you know, if you can't afford, people go to the food banks when they can't afford food. If you can't afford food, how do you afford pads or tampons, you know? So I always go into the period aisle, I refuse to call it the feminine hygiene aisle, and see if there are any pads or tampons on discount. If they have the natural care ones, I do try and donate them because, you know, as much as I'm an advocate for reusable menstrual products, I'm also an advocate for safe people being able to menstruate safely. And, you know, I'm very keen, I work with projects and organisations that help to get reusables out to people who might not know about them and explain them to them, but that doesn't mean that somebody isn't struggling today with getting period products. So from that side of things, I do try and donate, and do remember, you know, if you're in a supermarket or you're buying pads to yourself, if there's a one-off deal, you know, buy one get one free or something, and if you can afford to, maybe throw an extra packet in your bag and your shopping and donate it, as well as any food if you're donating that as well. But I think it's really important to try and remember that. Anyway, I hope you didn't get bored of listening to me rant. It just really annoys me how we can't say the word period in our society. It really should be part of, it just should be the norm now, shouldn't it? Half of us go through it, we should be able to just say the word at least. But anyway, thank you so much for watching, guys. Please subscribe. Hope you remember, you know, that in bad situations or just in everyday life, some people really struggle with period products, and you can maybe help them out if you're in a position to. Thanks for watching, everyone, and I will see you next week. Bye-bye.